While Matt's doing this, I'll just introduce myself. Otho Wells. I live in New Hampshire. I retired from the University of New Hampshire a few years ago after spending several years working on season extension techniques. And the later part of my work, I worked with the high tunnel concept and found out that it was a concept that was very rapidly adopted by growers in the state, and then throughout New England and other places as well. And I'd just like to tell you one little story to give you an idea of what a high tunnel does. In the northern part of New Hampshire, there is a seed dealer, and also he sells annual bedding plants during the spring. And he had a little 12 by 20 hoop house or high tunnel for selling. So somebody came along and said, no, is that for sale? He said, no, I'm sorry, I just use it for demonstration and for the bedding plant sales. A second person came along and said, that's a beautiful little house there. Is that for sale? No. And a third person came along and says, is that for sale? He said, yes. And this is a true story. And Ed Person in New Hampshire makes the high tunnels. And that year, he sold just about 112 by 20 high tunnels to people in the northern part of New Hampshire. Most of them are for home use and maybe light commercial use. But it's a product that works because of the nature of it, and that's why we are here today to discuss it. But I want to tell you about the fact that even a kid can put these things up. And if you do it right, they go up real easy. But you all know that the first one that you put up takes the longest, right? The second one is much easier. So my solution to that is just put the second one up first. Okay? But these are really not that complicated. And,
down, just.
Oh, down. High tech. Design, as was just mentioned, there are all kinds of designs, but there's nothing that will replace light. You need all the light you can get. We talk about east-west orientation versus north-south. We talk about putting plywood in end walls, but the best thing that you can do in a high tunnel is to provide all the light that you possibly can. I know in the summertime it can get hot, but in the spring and in the fall, when the days are shorter, you need all the light you can get. So this is Escalite on the end. It's more expensive than plastic, but yet it is very, very bright. And especially if you have a north-south orientation, you certainly do want something on the end wall that's going to let the light pass through. Escalite, that's a commercial name, ESKY-LITE, Escalite. And this is the other end of the same tunnel, and you can see that it has more framing, but yet it has plenty of light passing through. So in all that we talk about today, I think we need to talk about light as being our primary objective, and of course secondarily to that, and maybe primarily to some points, is temperature. So to get good ventilation, if you have high temperature, you need some way to ventilate the side walls, the roll-up walls, and here's an example of a roof vent that you can put in. It's solar powered. As the hydraulic fluid gets hotter, it expands and pushes up the vent. So the point is you need good ventilation, and there are different ways of doing it, but you need good ventilation as well as good light. And here's how it's installed from the inside. You just cut a hole. Just be careful, don't cut the hole bigger than you should, because if you do, you'll never get it repaired. But you slip it from the inside, you seal it with the wiggle wire, and it holds there, and then it opens and closes as the temperature goes up and down. It works very good as a supplemental source of ventilation. And Ted just mentioned Elliott Coleman in Maine. Well, there he is, and that's how he looks during the wintertime. And he's happy, at least for the picture. No. But the idea is that in cold regions, you have to design for the cold. And there are two things about it. One, you have a structure that won't cave in. And secondly, if possible, have it right out the back door. And that's not possible either, but you don't want to walk too far if you can help it to work in the wintertime conditions. But Elliott Coleman's done a good job in locating his houses. You see another one here, but when the snow is deep, it's more difficult to get to them. So I'd suggest put them as close as possible to where you're working. So that's all I'll say at the moment. Go ahead, I'll read it.
You were talking about the light exposure and orientation. So what would be the best orientation for the greenhouse?
The question is, what's the best orientation for high tunnels?
Yeah, for light, maximizing light.
For maximizing light? Well, certainly, I think in the northern latitudes, above about 40 degrees or so, which is about north of here, I think east-west has been traditionally the best direction, especially if you're growing in the wintertime, so that you'll have this southern sun coming around hitting the side of the tunnel instead of the end. But there are many other reasons for maybe putting it north-south. It might be the lay of your land, it might be the slope, it could be shade or any other item. But if you have a choice, east-west seems to work better than north-south overall. But that might not be the most important factor overall every time.